give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Corey Tulliva. I am your host today on the No Feelings NBA podcast feed. And we got a really special guest. You know, normally we kick it off doing draft work all year round, but it's the off season, so we like to have a little bit of fun here, right? So very special guest in the house today. First time, but hopefully not the last. We have Villanova legend, making me a little upset with his Eagles shirt on, Kris Jenkins in the building. Kris, what's up, man? Appreciate you being on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man. It's really an honor. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to, we like to have fun here, so let's start it out in a fun way. I'm a New Yorker, Giants guy, but I am also a Big East guy growing up, on the East Coast. And, you're obviously awesome Villanova career. You've hit one of the biggest shots probably in college basketball history there. You got to play with a lot of great players, and you got to play for a really great coach. And being a kid who grew up on Long Island, when every summer we would go to Villanova basketball camp and play at their camp. And it started out as the Steve Lapis camp, and then it transferred over to the Jay Wright camp. So right as he was taking over, I just thought it was so cool getting to experience in such short moments, hearing Coach Wright's basketball philosophies and learning little things, and having guys come in. Tim Thomas came in to speak with us. He brought in Shane Battier, just, guys from all over the basketball world at that time. I'm a little older, so this was right as he was like recruiting Jason Frazier, who was McDonald's All-American, right? He came from Amityville. And then that was like into the Randy Foye, Alan Ray, Kyle Lowry team. So back then, he just always was somebody growing up here that obviously you just had to respect for what he offered to the game. You got to play for him. Obviously, he's a legend, right? Multiple championships as a coach, the what he did for that program. What can you say about like your experience playing for Coach Wright?
Oh man, that's a great question. I appreciate it. Playing for Coach Wright, it was great. It was tough. It was challenging. He pushed all of us, not only on the court but also academically. We were always challenged. We were always pushed. He did a great job in recruiting players that he knew would fit the system, and not only that, but would be all for helping each other and helping everybody around them. And he did a great job of getting us to buy in and grow together. So it's definitely memories that we all have for a lifetime. And, we had some great battles there. We did a lot of great things. And playing for Coach Wright was definitely an honor and a privilege, but it had its ups and downs. It was definitely tough.
I'm sure it did. Was it hard to, at times for everybody to kind of buy in? Because it feels like with all of the talent that he's coached throughout his entire career, like getting high level basketball players to sacrifice is hard, right? Like,
yeah, he did. He just did a great job in keeping us motivated. We were all superstar talents, but we all had the underdog mentalities, and that's what he fed. That's what he fed us, and that's how he kept us hungry and motivated. And we did a lot of great things in practice. A lot of things in practice that we did prepared us for game situations, just because we knew that the talent or the person that you were going against in practice was probably better than the guy that you were going to be playing against in most games. So, it was definitely tough. It was a challenge, but, we were all up for it, and I'm just happy that, I was able to get in and have my little part in it that I did.
Big part of it, I'd say. Now, you may be doing a little bit of TV, right, at some point. Have you asked Coach Wright for any advice on how to look fresh on TV? Because his suit game is pretty strong.
Nah, no question. I definitely took some pointers from the best dressed coach ever. Can't play for Coach Wright and not pick up all pointers across all points of life, not just on the basketball court, but definitely style tips and suits and stuff like that. So moving into this next phase of my life and new career, I'll definitely be definitely going to him for some suit tips and some swag pointers.
Now, before we, maybe look back on some film and get into all the stuff we're going to talk about today, was there ever like a matchup that every year that you got like really hyped for, one specific team in the Big East that you just loved playing against every year, or a situation? What stood out about the Big East?
That's another great question. I just feel like the Big East is always a tough matchup. Each game is always a good game, great opponent with a high level coach. But I would have to say majority of our road games, man, almost all of our road games were just experiences that you'll just never forget. Just the atmospheres to go into, just knowing that it was such a big game for every university that we played against. So I would pretty much say almost all our road games. Definitely Creighton after my freshman year because we got beat pretty good. So I mean, just games like that at Syracuse was a good one. Another good one at Butler. I mean, they're all just tough places to play. So all of our road games were definitely always had like a unique feel to it just because of the magnitude of the situation.
Yeah, and then you got to play a lot of games at MSG, right?
Yeah.
Like in the bright lights of MSG, did all these moments in these games and getting to play in these types of places help prepare you for when the lights really were the brightest?
No question about it. But I would definitely go back and say that majority of that came from, like I said earlier, practice. Practice was just such a great environment for all of us. The ability to learn and grow, be coached hard, push each other. That was pretty much the big thing with all of our teams here when I was here at Villanova. Just the ability to learn, focus from wins, and push each other, man. Just compete at an extremely high level. And also playing at the Garden and playing on stages like that, they also contribute.
So, you mentioned practice a couple of times. Like what kind of things were you guys doing in practice that kind of fostered that competitive environment? Obviously, part of that is internal, right? That's just something you have in you. But what were the kind of things that like you guys would do on a day-to-day that kind of help prepare you for these moments that, you need to be prepared for when you're trying to, win a championship as the ultimate goal?
Our coaches did a great job in putting us in difficult situations and moments that they knew that we would be in the games. Just knowing, that we were going to get every team's best shot so that whenever it came to practice, just practicing the most difficult situations all the time so that we knew how to thrive in them and we knew what decisions to make, what options that we had, which is also a big part of thriving under pressure is just knowing what options that you have available to you in said circumstances. So we did a lot of game situations, a lot of keeping score, a lot of wins and losses. That always jacks up the competitive nature of things. But we were very, very attention to detail. I think that would probably be the most important thing that we probably dove into the most when it came to practice. Just every single person on the court, all the way down to the GAs, the managers, just everybody being so locked in and dialed into attention to detail, just knowing that the margin of error is this small and being a good team and a bad team is that small. It takes this much. So just things like that.
Yeah, I love it, man. Now, the shot that you hit, and we're gonna go into the clips of it. I remember seeing somewhere that maybe like that was that a set that you guys ran, like prepare? Like I feel like I watched it a few years ago in a clip. So you don't have to answer that right now. I want to talk about the moments leading up to that though, because you guys had a little bit of. You had like a 6-point lead or something like that with a few minutes left. I think you were on the bench and the lead started dwindling away, right? Because it part of it, watching it back, felt a little bit like, I don't know if it was like playing not to lose, but like trying to like, man, we need this clock to go. And, obviously North Carolina is being aggressive. So while you were like, waiting on the bench to get back in, what's going through your mind? What's like the temperature of the guys on the bench with you, the coaches? Like, what were you feeling in this moment?
So obviously I'm not happy with being on the bench. That's definitely the first thing, but I'm also engaged enough to understand what's going on and understanding right now may not be a moment in which I'm needed as much just because I was in foul trouble majority of that game. It was just how it turned out to be. The NCAA tournament is like the most physical part of the season, and then we get to the national championship game and I'm in foul trouble. It's crazy. Like, craziest thing ever. But the only thing that's going through my mind at the time is just understanding that, you know, it's coming down to the end, how we kind of envisioned it. Like, of course, we thought that we would dominate the game and win in whatever fashion, but you just know that moments happen and crazy shots like this happen, and you just have to keep your composure and keep your head on straight. And we have a strong word in our program, attitude, which is, you know, just remembering that you can't control things that happen to you, but you can always control how you respond. So in this moment right here, the crowd's going crazy. North Carolina, obviously, they feel like they're back into the game. In this moment, we have two things that we can do. We can sulk and be upset and let the moment take over us, or we can have a good attitude and realize, hey, we still got some time to win the game, which is the most important thing, you know, winning the game. Doesn't matter how we win, just get the win.
Yeah, I mean, look, like you said, like this kind of shot could really be deflating because it's not even like a clean look. It's a double pump off a broken play almost, right? So after this shot goes in, it's still a tie game, and you guys have the ball. You're still in control. But in this timeout, what do you remember from this timeout?
I just kind of remember how calm everyone was. We kind of knew the play that we were going to run. We knew what spots we were going to be in, who was going to have the ball, what it was going to kind of come down to. We just didn't know kind of where the shot was going to come from, if that makes sense. But we kind of knew
how they're going to guard it.
Yeah, we knew who was going to have the ball, how it was going to set up. So we get Daniel set us a good screen, and then Arch just makes a good play. Usually he's a senior captain, so we give him the ball. He's going to make the play for us, and it just so happened that the play for him to make was not for him to shoot it, but to kick it to me, who was wide open in the trail. But the timeout was pretty calm, man. Like I said, nobody was panicked. You know, everybody kind of knew what we were going to run. I mean, and the whole field was like, look, we about to win the game. We still got time to win the game. That's kind of the feel that we had.
Right. And, you know, in this scenario, even if, you know, the shot doesn't go in, you still go to overtime, right? So this play was drawn up for you for this little pitch.
So on this play, we kind of had a few things going on. It wasn't drawn up for me specifically, but I am an option on the play.
Okay.
So we kind of have like 2 or 3 things going on in which our senior captain, who's made many game-winning decisions for us, in which he has many options and decisions to make, which one could be him shooting it himself, which we will all live with because we've seen him make it, which could be the pin down screen between Josh Hart and Phil Booth, and then also myself right there in the trail. So we had a few options. And also Daniel in the trail pop position after the screener. Look and see, he's also wide open, but he just stopped moving because he knew we would get a good look, or we had gotten a good look. So we kind of had a few different looks, different options on this play, but the number one option was to get the ball to our senior captain and let him make a decision.
Did you know it was going in as soon as it left your hand?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could kind of say that that's kind of delusion. I'm pretty sure every shot I shot this game, I thought was going to hit the bottom of the net. To be honest. So definitely that one. If you get a chance, everybody, when you look, I shoot it and kind of lean forward. That's because I kind of knew, like, oh, yeah, this is going
in. So, I mean, what is like the high of this moment when that shot does go in? Teammates are, you know, running onto the floor. Like, I mean, literally, you know, some shots, some go ahead shots, right? There's still time left on the clock. This is a true like buzzer beater in the biggest moment. Like, this is what you're in your driveway as a kid pretending to do, right? So like after you hit the shot, what is like the euphoria of that moment like?
That's another great question. We were in Houston, so obviously it's a good city to be in, a good time to be had. But I think just in that moment was just all you think about is just, you know, you won. You're just happy that you won. You know what goes into it. A lot of sacrifices, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of demands. So you just know what goes into it. So I think the first initial emotions are just, you know, you're just happy that you won. Like I said before, no matter how you won, you're just happy that you got to win in a national championship game.
Yeah. can only imagine. But I remember watching that shot live and just going like, that's cold as ice, man. Like knocking that shot down in that moment, and it goes down as one of the the greatest shots in the history of college basketball, which is a storied history, right? Like, unbelievable moment there. And obviously, it shows like the trust in you to be on the floor in that moment, especially like you said, you weren't, maybe playing as much as you would have wanted to because you were in foul trouble, and to still like have the wherewithal to calm and to like get back in rhythm in those moments after you're sitting for a little bit, right? Huge stuff. Now, I want to play another clip here. Obviously that's the big shot. That's the one that everybody knows. And as I'm going through clips and watching, obviously you're a great shooter. You also could pass really well too. And you were trusted to be the inbounder on this baseline out of bounds play against like full court pressure. And when I first saw it, I was like, wow, that was a really good pass. And then I realized you got teams with this pass so much more often in this play than you should have. So take me through like how you can be so accurate with these home run baseball passes. And two, how you managed how this wasn't on the scouting report more and you kept getting teams with this.
So I appreciate this, man, giving me some credit for this, because this is a dime.
That's a dime.
I'm saying I beat the safety over this man coverage. I beat the safety over the top, dropped in the bucket, and it was an and one dunk on your head. Final four. We get ready to open. Like, I appreciate you.
McHale with the catch, the hands.
Giving me my Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers moment right here. In the bucket. Like, it couldn't have, man, listen, I'm talking about right ankle bread.
But again, like, this wasn't a one-time thing. Like, you guys got teams with this a lot. And I kept going, like, this got to be on the scout. It's got, like, again, right here.
Only because we always did a good job of having people come to the ball. We knew the situation that they were face guarding us, kind of trying to not let us get the ball in at all.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew we did a great job of having people come to the ball, being physical, getting open. So having our middle guy just go ahead and act like he was exchanging and then just heading straight to the rim. I mean, it was kind of like a play we knew when we ran it, we would get something good out of it. So it was Coach Wright and them did a good job in scouting and knowing when to run it. We only ran this right here in certain situations.
Right. But that goes back to, when you mentioned earlier, like a lot of what you guys did was in practice, right? Like for specific situations. And obviously in this clip that we're playing on this home run clip, you're up 20 seconds left. They need to get a steal, right? Being too aggressive, and you can throw it over the top. But yeah, we want to give you your flowers a little bit as a passer. And I mean, a couple of dimes right there. Did you play football growing up?
I played a little bit of football growing up. I wanted to score a touchdown, so I was like a tight end.
Okay.
The type of guy, because I wanted to score and get G with it.
I feel like you got, but maybe you could have played a little bit of quarterback too. Now I want to pivot a little bit too, because you not only did you hit one of the biggest shots in college basketball history, you played on some of like the coolest college basketball teams in college basketball history, and it's kind of culminated now in this really, really unique way in that there are 4 guys from Villanova who all played and won a championship together. And now they're all getting to play a big integral role on an actual NBA team. Like, I don't know when the last time something like this could have happened. Probably when there were like 8 teams in the league, maybe, or something, right? Like, so I want to start out just going through some of your teammates' clips and, kind of get a behind the scenes look of, what you saw back then and what they are now. And so let's start with Dante, who, he didn't play a lot his freshman year. I think he got hurt at that point, right? But it seemed like he always kind of had a penchant for playing in big moments too. In college, maybe a little like erratic, a little high energy. But I remember, going off in this game, it hitting a ton of big shots, right? And I think he had like 31, just really put himself on the map as like a legit, like, oh, this guy might actually be like a big time NBA player for what he did. And watching now last year in the playoffs, him hit kind of a similar shot, in a catch and shoot situation, but big scenarios, big moments. Dante misses the first shot against the Sixers in that game too. When you watched it and that ball swung his way, what were you thinking?
Oh, that he wide open. That's going in 2 for $1. Can't give us 2 wide open looks like that. Look, that's wide open at the top of the key. I mean, that's what we've been doing forever. So you get an easy look like that. He missed the first easy look, so if you give him another easy look, I mean, yeah, that's just catch and shoot, pitch and catch. We going home.
In Philly.
Yeah.
Back at home. But was Dante always like that? Like, I mean, a lot of guys, they might be phased. Shooting, you miss a shot, you can get in your head.
I mean, to play at Villanova, you have to have a certain level of confidence because of how we play on offense or how we play in general. We can't have a guy out there on the floor who offensively can't contribute on the level as everyone else in a way. So seeing this right here, everyone kind of knew, okay, this is a clear look. This one's going in, and the time was running down. We just knew it was only a matter of time. Clutch moments, like I said, get the win, head to Philly.
I mean, yeah, it's unbelievable shot. Like, growing up in New York, Knicks fans, this is a very, very memorable shot for them. Was he always like this though? Like, was he always like brash and confident and like, even as like a young guy his freshman year, when maybe he wasn't as polished as he is now?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, it's kind of how you had to be around us, all of us in general at that time. That is kind of how you fit in. You have to have that confidence, that work ethic, that drive. And every guy that plays at Villanova has a certain level of that, and he had it coming in for sure.
Yeah, like you said, all the guys do. Let's talk about, the New York Knicks' newest captain announced this year, Jalen Brunson. Just a leader in every sense of the word. Here you go, knockdown shot, right? From number 2. So what was it like playing with Jalen and, his ability to run an offense, put pressure, create open shots like he does for you here in this moment? What was it like playing with him?
I mean, he made the game easier. He was extremely smart, extremely competitive, crafty, knows how to score, knows how to make every play on the floor. So playing on the floor with Jay was pretty easy. He got everybody great looks, not just myself. Like we all got easy looks like this playing with Jalen. And when he's aggressive and he's making plays for himself, it allows him to make plays like this because as you can see him attack, so many guys have to step up and he's accounted for, which, like I said, just makes it so much easier for everyone else.
Yeah. And it showed also like some of the little stuff going on in this play too, the IQ and the feel of your guys. Like McCall lifts up from the wing, right? And now that guy who's splitting that weak side, he's got to make a tough decision because he can't really leave either of you guys, right? And that's too quick. So yeah, just like such a high feel group from you guys and having a guy like Jalen. Now, if you watch the NBA now, the trend is like every team wants these like jumbo creators, guys that are like 6'7", 6'6", running the squad. It almost feels like if you're 6'4" now, you're like small for a point guard.
Yep.
How has Jalen Brunson not only like overcome that, but he's one of the best players in the entire league at, I don't know what he's listed at. He's probably like 6 foot tall, right? 6 nothing. So what are the things that he brings to the table that has allowed him to overcome, kind of this upsized league?
Well, one is definitely work ethic. I think you remove a lot of doubt and a lot of fear when you work extremely hard on your game and you're professional about your craft. So that's one thing that he has. his skill set, his confidence. He's just an elite basketball player, man. He's been good his whole life. It just didn't start now in the NBA. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was a first team unanimous college All-American, player of the year. Like, it was just, there's so much that he's accomplished. So to be as dynamic as he is, he can play off 2 feet. He can play quick off 1. He can play in the mid range. He can make open threes, or he can make contested threes when he needs to. Defensively, he's smart. He's always in the right position. And that's over 85% of the battle, is just being confident and working on your game, having a great high work ethic, and knowing where you're supposed to be and being there. And he's great at all of that stuff. So that's kind of what separates him. Most people rely on that athleticism, and he relies on everything plus the athleticism that he does have. He puts it all together.
Yeah, because he's quicker than he gets credit for too.
Absolutely.
He just plays with pace, and like you look at the skill and the footwork, right? Like the up and unders. What was it like guarding him in practice?
I mean, it was tough because he was crafty, he knew he was smart, but that just goes to show how tough and competitive practice was. You have no choice but to get better when you're competing against players like Jalen and Dante, Josh, Mikal, Arch, Eric Pascal, Phil Booth, Amari Spellman, Darren Hilliard, Javon Pinks. When you're competing against guys like that in practice every day, you have no choice but to learn, to grow, to get better, and take your lumps and bruises, because not every day is perfect. So you have your good days and you have your bad days. It's just when you have your bad days, you have to continue to learn.
Yeah, and I mean that's a consistent thing. Like it seems like all the Villanova guys continue to learn and grow and get better, and and that allows these guys have shown it's allowed them to translate in the league. And again, like we see the similarities. We saw the clip from Villanova of him getting crafty, even though he's small, likes to play with his back to the basket. You mentioned playing off 2, which is something that it seems like Villanova guys are really accustomed to doing. But the up and unders, the ball fakes, like just finding crafty ways to score. So were you guys doing a lot of like stuff in practice that kind of lended itself to not only getting by on like natural talent, athleticism, but like a lot of that skill work that honed in, like creative finishing and ball fakes and making slight advantages bigger advantages?
Oh, absolutely, because when you get to a certain level, everyone's going to have a certain level of athleticism. Everybody's going to be good to a certain degree. So it's just, how can I find little ways to add certain things to my game to give me an advantage? Everybody at the Division I level and above can play off of 1 foot. You don't have to be taught that. Everybody can do that. That's a part of everyone's game. But little things like this, playing off 2 feet, learning how to shot fake, learning how to jump stop and not travel, knowing which pivot foot is available for you, which pivot foot you're most strong off of. It was just all those things that we were able to practice, and everybody was able to add certain things to their game. And Jalen's just doing that. He's like we said earlier, he's continuing to grow. He's continuing to add parts to his game, and he's continuing to perfect the things that he's worked on that he knows works for him.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think the Knicks have as good a shot as anybody to come out of the East this year. The amount of talent, the work ethic, the chemistry just can't be, built in an NBA team the way that the Knicks have a chance to play with this chemistry. It's going to be really interesting to see. Now, a big part of like the identity, because if you're a Knicks fan, who's probably around our age somewhat, you long for the days of like those 90s Knicks teams, with Pat and Derek Harper and Mason and Charles Oakley, the gritty, the tough, the hustle, right? That's what like a New York attitude and a New York tough team is. And there really isn't anybody that kind of represents that more than Josh Hart. I mean, this is a guy who we're going to put this play here that you get an assist on, right? Like he's diving on the floor. He's getting back up, running out, weird, unorthodox finishes, with weird body control. What did Josh mean to your teams when you were playing with him?
Man, this is awesome to see. I had the pleasure of knowing Josh since we were sophomores in high school. We grew up in the same area, so to just see him, to see the type of player that he's become, to see the level of success that he's achieved is honoring. It's a blessing to see, just because you know how hard it was for him and how hard he's worked. But Josh is probably the hardest playing guy that I've ever been around. You know, I've never been on a team with a guy that plays as hard as Josh Hart. So for him to be as talented as he was, as skilled as he was, to have the competitive nature that he has, and for him to play as hard as he does, I don't think I've ever seen a combination of all of that put into a player. So
Yeah, but what makes him special in that the hustle and you know the heart is like he obviously just has an innate feel and like a high IQ to go along with it, right? I mean, if we put together his offensive rebounding, I think he was like second on your team one of the years in offensive rebounds, like as a, you know, basically guard / wing type prospects. I mean, look at this, outworking everybody, getting up, finishing. And, you know, like it's one thing, I guess, when you look and you're like, all right, well, this is the guy, he could do it at the college level, but that might not work in the pros. And then you look at what he does in the pros, and this is a guy, he was getting like 18 boards a game, you know, like in big moments. Look at this one, you know, giving up size to Sam Hauser, inside position, getting low, getting up, finishing, and that passion, man. So what's it like seeing this translate to the league, you know, and seeing it actually work against these bigger, stronger, more athletic guys?
I mean, Josh is probably just as strong as these guys. That's the part that everybody probably gets. Like, yeah, he may not be as tall, but if you go, I mean, strength for strength, he's probably just as strong as any of these guys. That's where his advantage comes in, because not only is he a good athlete, but he's strong enough to kind of hold his weight, move around, hold his own, and make plays. So this right here is no shock to anyone, because you just know the type of player that he is, and competing and being a junkyard dog like this right here is what he's always been about.
Yeah, and I think he's really gotten better as a shooter in the league too. You know, because if you can't shoot in the modern NBA, it's hard to keep you on the floor in tough moments. You know, you mentioned that earlier, even on the college level, everybody's got to have some kind of offensive ability. This is a cool play because it's like all of you guys are involved in this. Everybody's touching the rock, and then you get that quick little short roll pass out to Josh there. How much does that like unselfishness that you all played with, how much has that helped, do you think? You know, not only did it shape your game, but how much has it shaped all of these guys' games, that not only do they have the opportunity to all play together, but they're embracing it, and like they show that willingness to kind of play their role and you know, do their job, even still as not only new, like as pros, but established veterans now in the league.
Yeah, I mean, we were always taught that you know, everybody has to sacrifice. You know, we were all great individual players wherever we were before we got to Villanova, but we understood that in order for all of us to get out of this what we all want, whatever that may be for each individual, is going to look different. But we just knew in order for all of us to maximize that, you know, we had to sacrifice. Everyone had to share. Everyone had to be a part of a bigger picture and understand that your time will come. Even if it's not today, if it's not this year, this month, however it may be, you just have to be ready and prepared for when your moment comes. And we were all able to do that. We all knew that it wasn't good enough for just one of us to be good or outstanding. We knew that we needed all of us to do something special.
Now, I know Arch isn't, you know, currently a member of this Knicks team, but he has been in that Knicks ecosystem before. Very recently, he had a pretty nice career with the Bulls too. He's managed to, you know, give himself a nice little NBA career. And I remember reading an article last year, I forget who wrote it, so I apologize to the writer, but it was about how he like led the team in drawing 3-second calls from the referees from the bench or something. And even when he wasn't playing, he still was like so locked in that he was contributing on the floor. So, what was he like? You know, you mentioned that he was a leader earlier. What was he like as a player?
I mean, Arch was a great player. He was a Big East Player of the Year 1 year, first team All Big East. I think he has 1,500 points in college, around 400 or 500 assists maybe. I mean, Arch was a beast, man. He and Daniel Chefu were the class that helped reset the tone for our program moving forward. And then you had myself, Josh Hart, and Darryl Reynolds coming after. And then you had Phil Booth, Mikal Bridges, and then Eric Pascal transferred in. So we kind of were able to set a tone after Arch and them came in and laid the foundation. So Arch was a great player, man. Great catch and shoot guy, good off the dribble. Set the tone for us defensively, charges, dives, just an all-around great teammate. And having his name retired at school was something that was long overdue, and I'm happy that we were all able to witness that. We got a few more guys on our team that got to get their stuff retired, but we got a few that already had it, and they're all well deserved. And Arch was one of those guys.
Absolutely, I think he's shown to be like a class act at every stop that he's been a part of. Now, the wild card now for this Knicks team that just came in and had this huge, highly successful year, one of the most successful seasons they've had in 20 years, is trading for Mikal Bridges, the last Infinity Stone, so to say here. And, it's funny the kind of player he's evolved into, because in college, for most of his career, he was kind of like a role player. Like his senior year, he expanded, it felt like, and you saw some flashes of shot making, but even then it wasn't fully actualized. And he was doing a lot of, like this, back cuts, maybe catch 1-2 dribble pull-ups. So you played with Arch, you had, Jalen, you can handle and make plays. Was there always more to Mikal's game? And he was just playing his role like we've talked about guys doing. Like, did you ever see a world where he was going to be a 20-point per game scorer?
I mean, Mikal always had the potential to be a great scorer, whether it be second cuts, basket cuts, off the dribble, catch and shoot. He always had that talent. But like you said earlier, we all had to sacrifice. So maybe he sacrificed not dominating the ball as much until it was time for him to do that. But Mikal came from a high school where cutting and back cuts and things of that nature were something that they ran. So he came in with a great feel for that already when he got to college. So to just add this part of his game right here was just kind of icing on the cake to take him over the top to a complete offensive player.
Yeah, and again, like he flashed it, right? Like this is pretty nice little combo, face up. But in the league, I was really high on Mikal coming out of the draft. I thought every time he dropped, I grew up a Bulls fan. When they passed on him, I was really upset. But I didn't expect, as high as I was, I didn't expect him to kind of show this kind of stuff off in the league, where that footwork, the pivots, the mid-range, the little KD fadeaway, the type of creation stuff. And I remember he was on JJ Redick's podcast, and he was like, they said I was an older guy coming into the league, but I was like 22. Like, I'm not 30. Like, I can still work on my game. So again, like when he's showing this stuff now, where do you think he balances kind of like the scoring chops that he learned, kind of being in a more featured role like this, with being kind of the winner role player that he showed in Villanova with Phoenix? How do you think he balances that? Because sometimes, guys get a little taste of the offense. It's hard to pull back. Do you think Mikal is going to have an easy time with that?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. You could just tell by the way guys play their game. Like, can Mikal play this way off the dribble? Yeah. Can he be effective other ways too? Yeah. He's shown that. So that's how you make yourself more valuable, and that's how you, in turn, have a bigger effect offensively, because he's going to be able to have opportunities to create like this. He's going to have opportunities to catch and shoot. He's going to have opportunities to off slashes and cuts and offensive rebounds, get second chance points, and that's how you evolve your game. You don't be one dimensional or a guy that just has to have the ball, and that's what a lot of our guys do at Villanova. A lot of those guys, even all the way down to Jalen, can play good basketball, not dominating the basketball, which allows everyone else to also thrive and be happy as well.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it even like Jalen got to play off Luka early in his career, right? Like, so even with being such a heavy on ball guy, that's the modern NBA. You know, you got to have the ability to play on the ball, off the ball, be able to make quick 0.5 decisions, defend multiple positions, and that's what all of you guys were able to do. And I think that's what makes the Knicks so intriguing. Obviously, the storyline of the team, them being teammates, but it comes from teammates who are all successful together and have that chemistry. And I think it's going to be a really fun experience. How far do you think this Knicks squad can go this year?
I actually think that they got a chance to win it all. Like you said, they have enough talent. They have the coaching. Hopefully they have the health. That always plays a big part in winning the championship for anyone, just being more healthy than everyone else. So hopefully they have all those things in their favor, because I know those guys feel the same way. They feel like they can win a championship. So why would I ever have any expectations lower than that? Because if you're not playing to win, what we doing?
That's right. I love it, man. Well, Kris, I appreciate you taking the time today to hang out, talk some hoops, go through some clips, look back on your illustrious, Villanova career and chop it up and give us some behind the scenes insight on your teammates. So very much so looking forward to this next chapter for you. And I'm sure you'll announce whatever you got going on at some point soon. So let the people know where they can find you and around the internet.
Yes. So I thank you for having me, man. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can do this when the season comes up. We can do this a couple times. You can find me on Instagram, Kris Jenkins, KrisJenkins_2. That's my Instagram handle. And yeah, man, I appreciate all the love. Hopefully our Cats can get it back on track. Fly on the road to victory. You know how we go. NFL season starting a week. NBA starting probably about a month after that. Can't wait, man. Big year coming up in the sports world.
Yes, sir, man. Again, this was a lot of fun. We're definitely going to have you back. Appreciate you chopping it up. Until next time, everybody, appreciate you for tuning in, watching. And if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, appreciate you checking in on the replay. So until next time, we are out. Peace.